Hello, and well, it's just about morning, so good morning for the next 6 minutes. This is the Jack Christian podcast, and I am your host, Jack Christian. So for this episode, there were two main things I wanted to talk about, the two threads that I've kind of been thinking about over the last week. And I didn't really want to talk about two things in the same episode, so I've been struggling to try and tie them together, and I wasn't able to do it until about an hour and a half ago when I came up with it. So let's just start by saying what the two kind of topics were going to be. So the first one, this was the first one I came up with last Thursday, which was because this week I've been going back over my old projects and writing and rewriting case studies to go on my website, and proposals, and they're just case studies. And I've been using a new structure for those. So starting with the kind of project scenario, what the client is looking for, and what the goals are. Why the client chose me, whether we have an existing relationship or I was referred to them or whatever. Then the kind of the story of the project, the struggle, the things we had to overcome to get it done. And finally the outcome. How did the project turn out? Are we still in contact? Is the relationship still there? Has the business been able to grow as a result? That's kind of the structure I've been using, and it's helped me put the client at the kind of center of the case study, and which I hope if a prospective client comes to read one of these, then they'll see that I'm thinking about getting them the results that they want, and they can see the results I've given other people in the past. So I'm hoping that that's gonna be a more effective way to use my case studies rather than trying to talk about how amazing I am. Anyway, so the title of that kind of podcast was going to be Looking Back to Look Forward, which was up until Monday. That was it. That was what we were going to do. And then this week, Monday and Tuesday, it's been a bit of a dodgy week. I've not been working that much. There's been various appointments and engagements that's just kind of disrupted the work I've been able to do, and it's kind of been irking me a little bit, and just getting a little bit anxious about the fact that I've not been able to be as consistent and committed to doing the work that needs to be done. Then on Monday, I wanted to talk about that and talk about inconsistency I wasn't going to berate myself. It was more trying to understand that things, you can't always be 10 out of 10 every time. You can't always operate at 100%. There's anyway, we'll get into it. So I was struggling to kind of tie those two topics together because I wanted to talk about both. I think both are important, and I didn't want to go on two tangents in the same episode because it seems, I feel like you should just have one unified topic in an episode. I feel like that's what the point of an episode is, at least for me anyway. So until this morning, I could not figure out how to tie them together. And then, as I was just scrolling through Instagram Reels, having my morning coffee, an idea struck me. So this Instagram reel that I was watching, it was kind of like some spoken word thing with a load of like nice images of friends hanging out in mountains. It's most of what my Instagram content is. I get like that, and then cooking and running. That's it. That's pretty much my Instagram content. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. This reel was talking about like this, how you look back on your life and you've got these like rose-tinted spectacles on, always kind of like looking back on like past times you've had, like old friendships, just being young and like having less, like a simpler life to deal with, and how we often look back on those times, and it's really nice. It's really important to look back and appreciate those times, but it's just as important, if not more important, to not get caught up in them, because ultimately the final point of the reel was that you blink and another 10 years has gone by. And then that kind of tied in with a conversation that I was having last night with my girlfriend. She asked me if it was a problem that she keeps. So she's like, we were talking about like a story with her old best friend, and then she asked me, is it a problem that she doesn't seem to keep close friends through her life? And to which my response was that I don't think it's a problem. Certainly in my life, I've had I'm still a lot of my best friends I've been friends with for 10, 15 years, but I've had other best friends at various points in my life where at the time we were really good friends, and then they've just kind of like faded out of my life. And I think answering her question and looking back at my own life, I think it's as we kind of evolve as people and we go into these new stages of our life, the people we associate with and the friends we have will naturally change. So if you're close friends with someone and they're kind of on a kind of similar evolutionary path to you, you'll probably stay with them. Like a lot of my friends do that. Like my friend back home, we both kind of started working for ourselves at the same time. We both had similar struggles, and I've been friends with him for like 15, 20 years now. I hate saying that things in my life have happened for 20 years. It really makes me feel fucking old. But anyway, I've been friends with him for 20 odd years now. We were both in a similar kind of stage in our life, and that brought us that made us feel a lot closer because we were going through similar things, similar kind of like things in our life. Whereas like some of my other friends, where I've just kind of like I've started new challenges and moved on to new things in my life, and they've just kind of, it sounds harsh to say, but they've kind of become irrelevant to my life. And me, same thing me to them, I'm not really relevant to them anymore. So we just kind of like phase out of each other's lives. And I think that's kind of natural. So how does this idea of evolution tie my case studies and my inconsistency together? Now this is somewhat far-fetched, but I needed something, and this is what my brain came up with, so let's go. So me being anxious about being inconsistent this last week, and at various other points in my life, I think it comes down to me looking at things in too small of a time frame. So I don't know if anyone's ever watched Kevin Kelly's TED Talk on optimism. It's fucking brilliant. I will link it in the show notes. I've always wanted to say that when I listen to podcasts and they're like, oh yeah, we'll link it in the show notes. I've always wanted to say that, so I'm glad that I'm now able to say that. So anyway, I will link it in the show notes. So he says when you look over a large time frame at anything, you can only be optimistic for the future. In pretty much every instance, on every metric, if you look at 100 years of human development, whether it be in society, I mean, not many people live for 100 years, but generally, as a society, over 100 years, things get better in every way. That's happened throughout history. So looking at that, you can only really be optimistic for the future. No matter what the challenges we face now, we have a long pedigree of overcoming challenges and making things better. So taking that idea and applying it to my own kind of anxiety about my inconsistent week, if I look at, say, the last 10 years of my life, per the reel that I was talking about, 10 years ago I was 18, I'd just finished my A-levels, or doing my A-levels, and kind of coming out of school, staring down the barrel of the rest of my life, and I wasn't optimistic. So at 18, I couldn't talk to girls unless I had an awful lot of alcohol and some MDMA, and then I was able to talk to girls. And then as soon as that wore off, I couldn't do it anymore. And then I had no real skills. I wasn't excellent at school. I wasn't a great student. I was reasonably smart, but just lazy and uninspired by the school system. And ultimately, I was just kind of bereft of any confidence. I had no real belief in myself that I was capable of doing anything, because I never had. That's where I was 10 years ago. And then if you compare that to me now, 10 years on, I'm having deep conversations about whether it's okay to lose friends I'm having deep conversations like that with my girlfriend, and a girlfriend that I have after moving to a new country, and as far as having no valuable skills, I work with businesses to grow their websites. I've been writing case studies and looking back over lots of different times I've been able to help businesses grow. So looking back at that 10 years, it's very reassuring that even if I have an inconsistent week, because certainly over that 10 years, there have been times where I've done less work than I've done this week. I've gone weeks where I've done no work. When I was 19, I spent 6 months playing Football Manager because I didn't know how to get a job. Anyway, so with kind of bringing this all together, it's okay to not be consistent over a short period of time. Life happens, things come up. It's okay. As long as the general trend is pointing in the right direction, I think that's what you want. Consistency isn't necessarily about operating at 100% all the time. It's just making regular small steps forward. So I'm trying to forgive myself for having other priorities, on a day-to-day basis. It's not always just about work. It goes back to what I was saying last week about trying to develop a bit of a less workaholic lifestyle, whereas I don't, just because I haven't worked so many hours in a day, I shouldn't have a pit of anxiety in my stomach about that. I think it's valuable, having looked back over past projects this week. It helps me, it reassures me that I'm going in the right direction, and it also helps me look forward and see what I can actually do to help businesses and people with their websites. So that's how I've tied those two topics together. I don't think it went too badly. It's a bit of me shoehorning stuff in, but I think it went pretty well. Anyway, what is the plan for the next week? So obviously, as I've mentioned, the main target of this week has been rewriting case studies and examining exactly how I can affect people's businesses, help them grow, and what my actual process is. So next week, I'll be continuing with that. All my existing case studies I've rewritten now, and there's a few more that I want to write about different projects that I feel that would be valuable. So, and then in conjunction with that, so I've been reading this book, Copy Wrong to Copywriter, which has been really helpful in me examining, just trying to improve my copywriting, basically. And I'm coupling that with me trying to improve my website SEO. So that's part of why I'm redoing all my case studies, because I'm just trying to make my website content more targeted and more effective. And alongside that, there's some parts of my website's technical SEO that I want to improve. So I'm making a few improvements on my website this week. There's just a few small improvements. I could go through them now, but I'm not going to bore you with it because it's really not that important. But yeah, I'm hoping that kind of with some new case study, with all the new case studies and the more targeted case studies, with the better performing website, I'm kind of laying the foundations for a new round of outbound marketing in the next few weeks. So yeah, that's what I'm doing this week, and yeah, that's it. That's all I've got for you. So I will be back next week with another update on my life and my freelance struggles and my meandering, rambling, droning insights. Yeah, anyway, I'll be back next week, so yeah, I'll see you then. All the best, have a great week.